Okay, this is video number 5 on educational report writing, and so far we're in the middle of the test results section. We've already put in the sentence regarding what it is that the test actually measures, or each subtest. So remember, one paragraph per subtest, starting off with what the manual says the subtest actually does, and that should be 1 or 2 sentences. Following that, the next thing you need to do is report the transform scores that you determined from the examiner's manual. Now, what we're talking about here are standard scores, classifications, and percentiles. So what we're going to do now is put in each paragraph the standard score, the classification, and percentile for each subtest. Ultimately, you're going to be reiterating what is already stated on the table that you just put in beforehand. So, take paragraph 1 of the test results section for the WIAT 2. We already said that the word reading subtest of the WIAT 2 presents a series of pictures and printed words for assessing decoding and wording reading ability. Only the accuracy of the pronunciation is scored, not comprehension. So that's what the test does. Now we're going to add the next sentences, and that is, on this subtest, Sally's performance was in the low average range, earning a standard score of 85. As indicated by her percentile rank of 16, Sally performed as well as or better than 16% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. And we're going to do this for each subtest. So let's take a look at this again. On this subtest, Sally's performance was in the low average range. That's the classification from the table on word reading, earning a standard score of 85. Again, 85 was the standard score. Go back to the table. Now we'll talk next in the next sentence about percentile rank. As indicated by her percentile rank of 16, Sally performed as well as or better than 16% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. And you're going to do this for every subtest on the test you administer. So let's go to the next one. Look at numerical operations. The numerical operations subtest of the WIAT 2 consists of a series of problems with pencil and paper for assessing the ability to reason mathematically. That's what we already know from the manual. We've already put that in. Now we're going to add 2 more sentences. On this subtest, Sally's performance was in the very superior range, earning a standard score of 135. As indicated by her percentile rank of 99, Sally performed as well as or better than 99% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. So again, we're doing the same thing. We're talking about on this subtest, then we put in the classification, performance was in the very superior range, and then we put in the standard score, earning a standard score of 135. As indicated by her percentile rank of 99, so go to the table, 99. And what does a 99th percentile means? It means that she performed as well as or better than 99% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. You go to the next slide, same thing we would do for the spelling subtest. On this subtest, Sally's performance was in the high average range, earning a standard score of 110. As indicated by her percentile rank of 75, Sally performed as well as or better than 75% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. And then finally, in the 4th paragraph on reading comprehension, we have our definition of what reading comprehension does on the WIAT, and then we do the same thing again. On this subtest, Sally's performance was in the well below average range, earning a standard score of 70. As indicated by her percentile rank of 2, Sally performed as well as or better than 2% of all students when compared to the norms for her age. Again, all of this information coming from the table that you put up, you're just reiterating what was already told in the table. Now, the last step in the test results section is to make a note about the student's performance on each subtest if necessary. So, for example, in paragraph 1, you have all the information that we had before, but now we put in something about what we saw as an examiner. So, for example, one of the things we might have seen is as follows. See the blue writing on the PowerPoint. An analysis of Sally's errors indicated that she often added and omitted syllables when reading words. Her reading speed was slow and self-corrected herself on 5 different words. An analysis of Sally's errors indicated that she often added and omitted syllables when reading words. Her reading speed was slow, and she self-corrected herself on 5. I'm sorry, that sentence shouldn't be there. That last sentence is a repeat of the first one. So it should just end when reading words, period. Go to the next one. Next one, numerical operations. Suppose when we were going over this numerical operations subtest, we saw that Sally exhibited certain behaviors or did certain things. So the last sentences would be, Sally shows a strong ability with mathematical problems. On the only 2 division errors that she made, her errors were due to simple miscalculations that had more to do with carelessness and rushing rather than anything else. So again, we're putting in something about Sally and her scores. And then it says her scores represent a normative strength for her, a normative strength. Anytime you have a student who performed on a subtest where it is in the 90th percentile or higher, you can say that the scores represent a normative strength for that child. So anytime a child scored in the 90th percentile, 94th percentile, or in Sally's case, the 99th percentile, we would then end the sentence with, her scores represent a normative strength for her. So if her score was in the 77th percentile or 50th percentile or something like that, that would not be a normative strength. We're talking about relative norms here. We're talking about the norms compared to the population. It's a normative strength. So since she was in the 99th percentile, her scores represent a normative strength. Suppose on the next subtest, the spelling subtest, we had an analysis of Sally's errors. We would then put in the end, analysis of Sally's errors revealed that she most often either added a single letter or omitted a single letter when misspelling words. The majority of errors were made toward the end of the subtest as the items increased in level of difficulty. So again, this is just something that you might see each time you perform or you do a particular subtest with this child. And then finally, the reading comprehension, same thing, but this student fell into the 2nd percentile. Sally made numerous errors on items that involved the skill of drawing conclusions and making inferences. She had difficulty recognizing stating detail, predicting events and outcomes, and identifying the main ideas of passages. So she had a lot of difficulties. And then we would write, Sally's scores represent both a normative and relative weakness for her. Now, a normative weakness is anything from the 10th percentile to the 1st percentile. So anytime you have a student who scored from the 10th percentile down to the 1st percentile, that's a normative weakness. A relative weakness is the score that fell the lowest within what she did. So for example, here the 2nd percentile was a relative weakness for Sally. Suppose we had another student, and that student had percentile scores of 85, 65, 55, and 21. Well, none of those scores are normative weaknesses, but the 21 deviates so substantially from the other percentiles that 21 would be a relative weakness. So again, if you look at a model test results section, and I won't read these, you can go through the slides. As you'll see, you've got first the table, and then you've got the paragraphs. First paragraph of the word reading subtest, the next one numerical operations, the next one with the spelling, and the next one with reading comprehension. And that ends this video. We'll go to our last video, video 8, to wrap up the report.